were you shocked at the way the pound fell so dramatically yesterday?
Well, I mean, I think given what the Chancellor announced, no. I mean, I think none of us can predict exactly what the markets will do from time to time, but essentially the Chancellor has decided not only to borrow a lot more money in the short term, which I think was politically inevitable for the reasons you've just discussed, but also to make very large unfunded tax cuts, primarily benefiting the better off, which are permanent. And moreover, to have no plan, and quite deliberately say that he has no plan to bring the budget to put the nation's finances on a sustainable footing. And that's essentially tearing up sort of 40 years of UK economic policy. Remember, even in the arguments about austerity in the early 2010s, both sides agreed that regardless of what you did in the short term, you had to have a medium term for fiscal sustainability. And this government's essentially decided, well, not really. We don't really care about that. So an adverse market reaction, I think, is not surprising. Although, as I said, you can't predict what the foreign exchange markets will do from day to day.
What's that going to mean in terms of an immediate impact then? If they are planning for the short term and not the medium and long term in all of this, how quickly do we know if it's worked when it comes to stimulating growth, which is what this is all about, supposedly?
Well, I mean, I think you have to distinguish between the short, as you just did, between the short and the medium to long term. The short term objective, which I think, as I said, was politically inevitable, and I think any government would have done, is to reduce the depth of the downturn, reduce the hit to real incomes that is coming right now because of energy prices. As you know, the Bank of England says we may already technically be in a recession, but the idea is to try and engineer a soft landing by supporting household incomes with the energy price guarantee. And as I said, I think there's nothing particularly radical about that. Any government would probably have done something quite similar. It's not that's upsetting the markets. That's just, and we'll find out whether that's working or not, or how well it's working over the next few months. And I think, to be honest, there's a limited amount of either blame or credit one should give the government or yesterday's budget for what happens, because that is, as you've just been saying, to a large extent driven by global developments. Then there's a separate set of policies which are directed in the medium or long term, which are directed at increasing the trend rate of growth. And the government has decided, pretty much along the lines of what Reagan did in the mid-1980s, that the best way to generate growth is to chuck a load of money at relatively rich people and hope that somehow improves incentives and generates wider growth. History does not suggest that's a very likely to succeed, but we won't know for quite some time.